Hi, students. So for this lecture, we will be talking about the third managerial function, which is about directing, or in a more innovative way, leading. When we talk about directing, this is the doing phase of the management process. This is where we try to instruct our subordinates, guide and oversee the performance of our team members. Now, in this stage, it involves encouraging subordinates to work effectively. If we try to look directing on a broader sense, seven characteristics would be deduced. No? We can say that directing is a pervasive phase because it encouragement of other people. It involves directing is also a continuous stage, meaning it does not end from one instruction, no, or the other. It is always followed up with with something, no, to make sure that what you have planned is consistently implemented. Since directing will involve people, no, directing also involves a humanistic factor because we are dealing with people that appeals to their humanity. The implement or the directing phase is an implementing phase. Therefore, it should be as a creative activity. Creative in the sense that it produces something new. It is something that it is the stage for materialize, or it should be a creative activity. Not giving instructions only. Uh, of the race, it is an executive, meaning you're trying to execute, no, what you have planned, okay? And since you're dealing with a lot of people and you're assigning to people, characteristic of direct your delegation. With that, there are four major components or dimensions of the directing stage. It involves motivation, communication, delegation, and conflict management. When we talk internal force within the individual that influences or directs his behavior. This is a crucial element, no, in goal setting and attaining your plans, because with motivation you can encourage people to work on the plan settings. Now, motivation, intrinsic factors, meaning something that is internal within the person, extrinsic factors, which is something outside, no, the person's mind or system. So, for example, if we try to motivate ourselves, no, to pass the board exam because this is an achievement for us, this intrinsic ours pass the board exam abroad, we work abroad, then this is an extrinsic factor. As ideal as it may sound, no, intrinsic factors are not enough to motivate a person. No, can be suggested is that we have to utilize, no, in balance this intrinsic and extrinsic factors to motivate people. Now, here are some motivational that you may apply in your workplace when you try to motivate people. We can use Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs by appealing to the needs of the people to motivate them. This is best exemplified by granting request off, no, for nurses to motivate them to work properly in the area. We can also use Burroughs Skinner's operant conditioning, or rectifying or giving rewards and punishment for actions, no, that are compliant or non-compliant within our organization. B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning can be attributed to the theories and theory Y management theory of Douglas McGregor, because theory X managers try to impose sanctions more often. It's related, no, to Skinner's operant conditioning theory. Likewise, if a manager is a theory Y manager, operant conditioning would allow that manager to give out, no, rewards, no, and and incentives people for work done. Another motivational theory that we want to emphasize, no, this is especially for organizations, is what you call your two-factor theory by Frederick Herzberg, which he stated that there are certain factors that causes satisfaction and that causes dissatisfaction. Now, according to him, motivation factors which causes job satisfaction and hygiene factors which causes dissatisfaction should not be viewed as if it is appearing in a continuum, because there may be an increase in satisfaction, but it does not necessarily mean that there will be decrease in dissatisfaction, and vice versa, because these factors play differently, no, in the context of organizations. Now, according to Herzberg, motivation factors are those that promote satisfaction. Sometimes it's, or more often, it can be tied with things which factors of the work itself, like responsibility, achievement, growth, and recognition. Recognition in the sense that recognition that your work is important for the organization. It's not the recognition that you gain from other people. Because if the recognition comes from other people, it is something that is external, therefore it is considered as a hygiene factor, no? A factor that prevents dissatisfaction. So recognition, the motivation factor of recognition would tell you how well your contribution or how well your work can be seen as a contribution or important to the organization. On the other hand, hygiene factors are the ones that prevents dissatisfaction. So as the opposite of motivation factor, this is extrinsic to the work, no? It can come in the form of salaries, company policies, benefits, okay, which may change over time. Now, according to Frederick Herzberg, salaries, no, like your hygiene factors, like your salary, company policies, and benefits, have escalating and cyclical zero point. It means that whenever there is a change, no, in your hygiene factor, no, sooner or later, this change may become inadequate. For example, if you have been raised, if your salary has been raised, no, by your manager or your boss for a certain point in time, the dissatisfaction that you experience becomes, no, less is lessened or becomes zero. But then over time, no, you'll feel dissatisfied, no, with that salary. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng cycle and escalating zero point of hygiene factors. Okay? So again, as ideal as it may sound, motivation factors should not be the sole basis, no, for implementing work changes, no, for increasing motivation among, because it would sound unrealistic, no? Humans or workers, being humans, have their own needs, and these needs cannot be alone addressed by motivation factors. So you need to apply some hygiene factors, no, some adjustment in hygiene factors so that they'll stay, no? So that they'll feel contented inside your workplace. Another aspect of directing is communication, no, which actually cuts at all stages of management process. Now, again, communication in our profession is the core of nurse-patient, nurse-nurse, and nurse-physician relationship. Okay? Even nurse and other healthcare workers relationship. No? Because it is in this stage where we exchange our thoughts, messages, information, either by speech, signals, writing, or behavior. Okay? Now, communication occurs between or more individuals and can come in verbal or nonverbal forms. I know you are familiar with this diagram, the change of the exchange of information from sender to receiver, which is transmitted through a medium, okay? And that for communication to be complete, feedback should be generated. And this exchange of communication may be affected by barriers. Now, there can be changes or factors that affect your communication, no, between two people. It can be an internal climate, no, or an external one. So when we talk of internal climate, these are factors that refers to your values, feelings, attitudes, and stress levels when you receive, no, or send the message. The way you feel to yourself, the way you have, the way your attitude or perception about a message will affect how you receive the message or send the message. Okay? So climate is one factor when nakakaapekto sa inyong pakikipag-usap sa ibang tao. Another type of climate, no, which refers to the external factors are your external climate, which includes status, power, authority, weather, and organizational climate. Okay? This greatly affects interpretation of the messages being delivered to you. So for example, no, you as a student, you were being called by Dinso or by the dean, no, of your college. Knowing that your status is too high, the status of the dean is too high, and your status difference is great, no, you would perceive that the message of being of magkakaroon ka ng implication na yung message. No? Unlike kapag pinatawag ka ng klase mo or ng kaibigan mo, no? Which may constitute na hindi siya seryosong message. Now, there are also some variables, no, affecting organizational communication. So, number one is unang-una na rito yung formal organizational structure. The hierarchy of positions will tell you how serious or how informal your communication will be, no? Gender or sex can also affect how you communicate with other people. Okay? Men and women have different styles of communication. While men are straightforward or competitive in communicating, women are more nurturing, supportive, and future-oriented. Okay? Now, also, there's professional stereotyping, no, in healthcare organization that affects how we communicate. No? If you have observed, no, there are some stereotypes, no, for doctors. No? May stereotype sa healthcare organization na doktor ang kailangan masunod, no? Na ang nurses minsan ay nakikitang uh, assistants ng doctors. So those are professional stereotypes na pwedeng mag-affect on how we communicate. Okay? Now, communication can be channeled in different directions. No, it can be downward, no? Pag downward communication from higher level to lower level. This downward communication is usually a in the form of command. No? Nagbibigay ka ng utos. That's a downward communication. Alright? When we do or when we have a horizontal communication, we try to communicate with peers. No? We try to communicate with people of our same level. So it's somewhat an informal or coordinating message. No? Usually in the form of communicating or coordinating message. Diagonal communication occurs when a person of higher authority or higher level from other departments or other parts of the organization communicates or gives orders, no, to other to subordinates of other departments or other sphere of work, line of work, no. That's a diagonal communication. On the other hand, grapevine communication is like an informal communication which states, no, which transfers from one person to the other, no, as if it is like a grapevine, no, and going on to other people, so on and so forth. Now, there are elements of nonverbal communication. So, this also affects how your message will be interpreted. Now, when there is one element is your space. No, the closer you are, you communicate, or the closer you communicate your message, the more intimate, no, your message will be. So you have to make sure that these distances should be observed, no, when you deliver communication, especially where messages of action, messages of punishment, no, or verbal rectification of wrongdoings, di ba? Kasi it's inappropriate to communicate this in a public distance or a social exchange because chances are this may be heard by other people, no? And if this is heard by other people, your corrective discipline or your corrective message might be viewed as an insult, no? So you have to observe space, no, when you give your corrective message. Environment should also be considered, the type or the place where you deliver your message. Likewise, how you appear should also be a determinant, no, of the type of message you're delivering. Okay? Eye contact, facial, and vocal expression can also affect the way you communicate with other people. Postures and gestures. Okay? Now, crucial to a group, no, and crucial to the development of group is communication. So with communication, your group undergoes the group formation process, no? The stages of forming, storming, norming, and performing. Now, when we talk of forming stage, this is the stage wherein you try the initial stage of group formation. Now, this is where you first meet your group mates, no? The first time you meet them as a group member. Kahit na na-meet mo siya outside, no, of your group, no, nagkaroon na kayo ng informal, iba pa rin kapag first time ninyong mag-form ng group. Because in this process, you enter into a professional transaction with them. Mapasok ka in transaction with them. So, informal get to know sa formal group process na mayroon kang professional transaction. So, kahit nakakilala mo siya pa rin kapag first time ninyong mag-work as a group. So, in this stage, in the forming stage, this is the first time, no, that you meet with your group mates. The second stage of group formation process is what you call your storming stage. In the storming stage, this is where your attitudes, no, different attitudes, values come to clash with each other. No? Your personalities may come to clash with other people. So, the storming stage, this is where you try uh, to to bring out what's inside you and contribute it to the group. Well, storming stage is necessary because it is a prerequisite, no? It is a prerequisite, no, to proceed to the norming stage. Kasi hindi kayo magkakaalaman ng ugali ng inyong mga klase, ng kaalaman, ng values na pinanghahawakan, at yung konteksto ng grupo ninyo, hindi nyo pa nagagamay, hindi kayo makakasunod or makaka-progress in norming stage. Yung next stage, which is the norming stage. Because in the norming stage, dito na nagno-normalize yung inyong mga values. Kumbaga, nagkakaroon na kayo ng agreement up to what level, nagkakaroon na kayo ng adjustment on what's with this to be a group mate with them, no? But uh, those are the activities, no, or happenings during the norming stage of the group process. Now, once you have established your norms, you have established your working relationship well, you now proceed to the performing stage. Now, in the performing stage, this is where you try to accomplish, no, what you have planned. So dito na kayo kumikilos, dito na kayo gumagawa. Now, what happens if a new member comes into your group? No? When a new member comes to your group process resets. Nagsisimula ulit kayo sa form. Kasi iba ang dynamics nyo as a, kapag may pumabago. Ganon din kapag nababawasan kayo sa isang grupo. Nagbabago ang inyong dynamics, magre-reset ang inyong group formation process. No? Now, inside the group, when you become a group na, you may notice that there are some roles, no, that you try to take on, no? May mga kayo na tinitake po. Okay? Meron kayong role na ginagamit or ginagampanan para matapos ang isang trabaho. Okay? So these are your group task roles or the roles necessary to get things done. This may be performed by the members or the leaders and that they relate to the life of the group. So group task roles involve being an initiator, being an opinion, being an elaborator, a recorder, coordinator, orienter, tagapagbigay ng information, procedural technician, energizer, evaluator. So these roles are necessary to keep your group going, to keep your group working. Okay? So not necessarily isang member ng group, no? Isang role. No. No? A leader or a member can take two or more roles based on the dynamics of the group. But here are some roles that you may notice. Now, to maintain your group cohesive, no, para buo pa rin kayo as a group, you might notice some group maintenance roles, no, or the one that builds your group, or the one that provides care for the group. Okay, so this is somehow looks on, or this role looks on the emotional life of the group. No, a member can become an encourager, a harmonizer, a compromiser, a gatekeeper, standard setter, group commentator, or a follower. Okay? Just to maintain the cohesiveness of the group. And lastly, there are self-serving roles, no, for every group. Okay? So individual roles, no, are those roles that you may notice, no, some people take on kapag nasa group. No, this role would relate on maintaining the ego of the member para mas mapansin pa rin siya kapag siya ay nasa loob ng grupo. No, kasi may chances na sa sobrang matabunan yung sobrang daming members ng group, no, feeling ng isang member natatabunan siya. So to keep his ego up, no, to keep his ego or presence felt, there are individual roles, no, or self-serving roles na ginagampanan niya. It can be in the form of aggressor, no, yung nakikipag-away, blocker, yung nananabla, recognition seeker, self-confessor, yung taong mapaglaro, playboy, no, or a dominator, or help seeker, or a special interest leader. So these are roles that are observed by your members or by members of the group. Okay? That can be taken on by some members of the group to maintain their ego. The next component of directing is delegation, no? Or the transfer of responsibility, no? But not the liability to other or to team members. Okay? Because you transfer the task because you want as a manager to get to get to get more to get more work done in their group. Okay? Now notice that delegation requires, no, the transfer of the task to a competent individual. Okay? Dapat kapag ikaw ay nag-delegate, make sure that your expectations, no, your instructions, and the person you are delegating to is qualified. Okay? Or tama yung lahat ng mga bagay na yun. Okay? Now, delegation can be done for the following reasons. Number one, sabi ko nga kanina, it provides managers, no, the capacity to handle more tasks or more complex problems. No? It allows other personnel who has the expertise on the matter to handle the problem. So it handles or it gives the chance for other people who are capable of doing the job to do the job. No? And also, delegation is one way to improve, no, the skill of the worker, no, to provide growth opportunities for them. Ito yung tinatawag na stretching, no? Ini-stretch natin yung capability ng tao in the hopes na siya ay matuto at lumago bilang empleyado sa kumpanya. Now, there are some errors in delegation, no? It can be under delegating, over delegating, or improper delegation. Under delegating, kaunti yung dinidelegate mo. It may be because you don't trust, no, your people. You underdelegate because you do not trust people doing your work. Or sometimes you underdelegate kasi feeling mo the managers should have the most number of job, no? Which is hindi naman dapat. No? Dapat equally divided and equally delegated or properly delegated. Sometimes, no, we over-delegate our task to people. When we say over-delegate, sinusobrahan man natin, hinihigay natin trabaho sa ibang tao. To the point na wala na tayong ginagawa, kundi i-monitor yung trabaho na din-delegate natin sa iba. No? Kasi delegate, sabi nga natin kanina, we have to monitor dahil we transfer the responsibility but not the liability, no, to other people. Okay? And last common error will be your improper delegation or delegation of your task to other people who are not capable of doing the job. Okay? So if you want to have or practice effective delegation, you must take note, no, of these pointers. First, you have to plan ahead. Plan ahead what is the task that you need to delegate, no, and if you have the necessary resources, no, resources and manpower to do the delegation. Number two, you have to identify the necessary skills for them. Okay, identify the necessary skills to complete the job. Next, select the most capable personnel. Fourth, importante, i-communicate yung goal clearly. So when you communicate clearly, you set the expectations to them. Not just saying to them, oh, gawin mo itong bagay na ito. So communicate your goal clearly. Next is to empower the delegate. When we say empower the delegate, we do not say only na kaya mo yan, you can do it. No, that's not the empower. That is not what empower the delegate means. Empowering your delegate means that you provide all the necessary resources, no? Information, finances, authority, no, for the person to do or execute what you have delegated to them. Baka mamaya sa delegate mo, nag-delegate ka, hindi ka naman nagbigay ng budget, no? So paano niya gagawin yung trabaho kung wala siyang budget, no? So empowering your delegate does not only mean that you encourage them. Empowering them is to give them resources, authority, information. Now, you also have to set the deadline and monitor the progress of your delegation. Okay? Now, if ever the delegate needs information or guidance, you have to be the model. You have to be the role model, no? And you should provide guidance to your delegate. So after the task is done, you have to evaluate it, and lastly, you have to reward the accomplishment. The last component of directing is your conflict management. Okay? Now, conflict is defined as an internal or external discord that results from differences in ideas, values, or feelings, no, between people. Naturally, it occurs, no, in our organization, in ourselves. No, we have conflicts, but we should view it, or we should see it as necessary, no, for development. Because class conflict, no, is viewed traditionally as something that is bad for the traditional view for conflict that is that this is bad. Okay, so we have to avoid conflict. If your actions, no, will always be directed towards eliminating, avoiding conflict, you are a traditionalist conflict manager. On the other hand, when you are a human relationist, you accept the fact that there is conflict, and it is a necessary condition, no, condition for you to, and it occurs naturally in in your organization because there are people. But an interactionist would tell you that conflict is necessary, and you interact with this conflict, you resolve this conflict so that you can move forward. Now, always remember that when there is little in an org, stasis may result because there are no driving factors for changes, there are no driving factors for development. But if there is too much conflict, which is unmanageable, the organization becomes ineffective because all the systems are too much focused on the conflict that they are experiencing, hence making an organization ineffective. Now, conflicts can be categorized into the following groups. It can be in the form of intrapersonal conflict, no, a conflict within yourself, an interpersonal conflict or a conflict between you or another person. It can be an intra-group conflict, no, a conflict that occurs within your group, no, or an intergroup conflict. Okay, intergroup conflict, a conflict between two groups. And the most, no, complicated type of conflict is your intra-organizational conflict, okay, which may occur vertically, no, with management, no, to employee, or horizontally between members of the organization or aligned staff, no, conflict. Okay. Now, conflict undergoes given the types of conflicts, no, it undergoes, no, a common process or the conflict process, okay, which undergoes through the latent stage, the perceived or felt stage, the overt stage, and the resolution stage, and even an aftermath stage. Okay? In the latent conflict stage or the latent stage, the precursors for the conflict becomes visible, or the precursors for conflict becomes visible. For example, sa ward ninyo, merong pala absent, no? Tapos hindi ka pa naaapektuhan bilang staff nurse. Pero napapansin mo na pala absent yung isa mong ka-staff, which in the future can become a source, no, of conflict in scheduling. So there is a latent conflict, no? That's the latent conflict stage. May napapansin ka ng precursor for conflict. Now, if you have internalized it, no, cognitively internalized that conflict, that is a perceived conflict. no? Pag na-rationalize mo yung conflict na yon, you are at the perceived conflict stage. However, if it's more on the emotional side of conflict, that's a felt conflict stage. Now, perceived conflict stage may occur simultaneously with felt conflict, or sometimes perceived lang, walang felt, and vice versa. Now, when this conflict manifests physically, no, verbally, o lumabas na yung conflict na yon, nandoon na kayo sa overt conflict stage, no? During this overt conflict stage, it is necessary, no, to employ conflict resolution techniques, no? So that you'll arrive to a resolution, no, or yung common ground ninyo kung saan magsa-start kayong mag-implement ng changes, no, so that there could be an aftermath, no, kung anong mangyayari after the conflict. Well, not all conflicts are resolved. Not all conflicts are resolved. And not all conflicts or conflict technique or conflict resolution techniques follow the same, no? Follow the same type or is applicable, no, to any conflict. Kasi some conflict management techniques or conflict management ways are not applicable in one situation, no? So ano-ano ba yung mga conflict management techniques, no? Ito yung compromising. Compromising involves giving up something from you, no? Or competing. Pag sinabing competing, kinukuha mo, pinipilit mo, no, yung gusto mong mangyari over the expense, at the expense of the other people. Okay? Now, when you say cooperating, no, you try to support the other group. Another technique is to smooth, no? To smooth the agreement or the conflict, no? You smooth the conflict. You try to find what is the common ground of the group and focus on that. Okay? While avoiding is ignoring the disagreement, while collaborating is to achieve a supraordinate goal. So for example, no, sa schedule natin na sa sa example natin ng scheduling, you are collaborating if you try to consider a supraordinate goal in resolving your conflict in absenteeism and scheduling. No, for example, you try to uh, your supraordinate goal is to ensure maximum or optimal patient care for patient, hindi maapektuhan ng kanilang ang kanilang nursing care, no? So, given the number of resources or human resources na meron kayo, so hahatiin niyo yung schedule, hahatiin niyo yung workload among you na sino ang present, no? I-extend yung oras ninyo para hindi naman masyadong magtagal, pero hindi rin naman magtagal sa duty, pero hindi rin naman maapektuhan, no, yung pasyente ninyo. So that's collaborating, no? You try to develop a solution based on a supraordinate goal. Yun nga lang, not all people are willing to collaborate with you, no? Not all people are willing to listen. Not all people are willing to admit, no, or to compromise. More often, they would like to compete with you for a solution. Okay? So depending on the situation, depending on the context of conflict, you have to apply, no, which conflict resolution techniques would you like to use, no? Determine which is best to use. Okay? Usually avoiding is kapag heated ang argument, no? Kapag heated ang argument, merong physical threats, merong violence, physical violence involved, you have to avoid, no, the agreement. Do not arrive, no, to a supraordinate goal because everyone is mad. The conflicting parties are mad. So you have to avoid, no, that situation. No, to resolve the conflict, paghiwalayin mo muna sila. And then when they cool down, then try to resolve the conflict. No? So there are other uh, constructs, no, of or concepts in dispute resolution. Usually resolutions are resolved, no, are resolved by discussion or what, no. The most basic of them all will be your negotiation. Now, conflicts resolved by two parties among themselves, no, walang third party na mamamagitan sa kanila, then na-resolve nila yung conflict nila between the two. That's negotiation, no? Or resolution of conflict between two parties without going to court. Okay? Without going to court. Resolution, disputes can also be resolved by mediation. When we say mediation, this is a negotiation type, no? Walang court na involved. Pero there is a mediation between two parties, conflicting parties, that will help them resolve the conflict. No? Merong trained mediator between the two. Usually, the trained mediator is impartial, no? Not part of any group of the conflicting parties. Okay? So, isang tao magme-mediate doon sa dalawang grupo or dalawang disputant. Okay? The next level for mediation will be arbitration. In arbitration, you try to resolve conflict with the help of a group of arbitrators. Okay? Pero hindi pa rin nasa korte ito. Okay? So, arbitration is usually used for resolving disputes in commerce, no? If you have heard the arbitration ruling, no, sa West Philippine Sea, that's the result of an arbitration, no? Pero hindi siya legal battle. Okay? But rather, mediation, ano, on a next level with the help of group of people, no, to resolve the conflict. While litigation, on the other hand, no, involves now court hearings. No? This is resolution of conflicts inside the court. Dito ka nakukuha ng abogado, may judge, no? Then papasok ka sa proseso ng hearing, no? Until dumating doon sa verdict, no? Tapos pwede kang mag-appeal doon sa verdict, no? Until you arrive to an agreement, no? To resolve the conflict. Now, here are some strategies, no, to resolve some conflict, no, aside from doon sa mga techniques and the rights and the lights. Try to resolve conflict by emphasizing super or coordinate as possible. No? Try to reduce differentiation. Okay? And try to improve communication and understanding. Now, sometimes conflicts can be eliminated or resolved by reducing interdependence. Gawin mo na lang silang independent parties and not working with each other. Or try to increase the resources or decrease resources. No? Baka mamaya ang source of conflict pala ay resource, edi kung kulang, dagdagan ng resource. Pero kung tingin mo dapat alisin yung resource sa pinag-aawayan nila, alisin mo. No? So for example, nag-aaway ang mga staff nurses sa request off, no? Kasi pwede kang mag-request off kapag ikaw ay staff nurse. Magre-request off ka. At kung nagtatalo-talo sila dun sa request off, which is the resource, if you think na mahirap i-resolve yun by increasing the number of request off, you might as well remove that opportunity or that resource. Okay? And one way to resolve your conflict is to clarify the rules and procedures. Now, there's a special type of resolution which occurs in the workplace, which is what we call your collective bargaining. This is a process of negotiation between employers and a group of employees aimed at reaching at an agreement, no, to regulate working conditions. No, this is to negotiate some employee wants, no, or employee demands, no, with the capability of the employer to give into that demand. Okay, and even discuss conditions and grievance procedures. This is usually done by trade unions, no, in cycle or as an agreement calls for. Okay? And lastly, another conflict, no, type of conflict which is observable or can be observed, no, in the workplace is yung tinatawag na workplace violence. Now, when we say workplace violence, this is not limited to physical violence only, but also to various antisocial behaviors like bullying, pranks, setups, no, which lead to a person to believe that he or she is harmed. So workplace violence need to be addressed, no? Most especially in the workplace. Okay? It can be because workplace violence can come not only from patients, well, that's the most obvious one. It can also come from other healthcare personnel, no? Nurses, no? Doctors, no? May mga doctors na naninigaw ng nurses, etc. No? Those incidences of workplace violence should be addressed, and it is managerial responsibility to address this, because addressing it at the micro level will only result in repetition of such violence. To address this properly, you have to address this at the macro level, no? And you as a manager, you have the access, no, to that level, to that macro level. You have to institutionalize, you have to develop policies, no, for your workplace. Okay? The fourth and the last managerial function will be about controlling. During this stage, or the controlling stage, this is where monitoring occurs. Monitoring whether a certain project and plan has been carried out consistently and as planned. Central to the concept or to the stage of controlling is the concept of quality. When we talk of quality, it refers to the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfills your requirements. No? Some others would tell it's the conformance to requirements, or sometimes fitness for use, or efficient production of the quality that the market expects. But this is the best concept of quality or definition of quality that I can give, which comes from the Toyota way, no? Which talks about doing the right things right the first time. Now, the concept of quality management or controlling the outcomes of every processes started, no, in the farm in the production industry, no. So the primordial stage or the primordial form, no, of quality management, which is considered as quality control or the inspection of your finished products. No, so once you have completed producing a certain product, you have to test it, no? So that's quality activity, and then you can say, and when it functions, no, you can release it to the market. So if there are any defective products, no, they are being reworked, gagawin ulit, or discarded. Now, the concept of quality control is only applicable for production industries, no? But in the healthcare industry, your quality control becomes inapplicable because uh, you cannot just inspect, no, the outcomes of healthcare procedures after it is being delivered. If it causes death, if the healthcare procedure causes death, then there will be nothing to be reported on, no? The patient's lives cannot be brought back. So therefore, quality control is not applicable to our setting because of the nature of our service, the nature of our industry. So to improve, no, to improve the quality paradigm, we move to the next level, no, which is your quality assurance, a concept termed by or coined by W. Edward Deming. Now, he said that all processes are vulnerable to loss, no, of quality due to variation, because any process when performed by any people may have varying implementation style. So to prevent this variation in implementation, according to Deming, we need to set preventive activities to ensure that the quality of the finished product is being attained. No? So we have to set guidelines, we have to set procedures so that we know how to do these things. Now, in the healthcare setting, quality assurance can be implemented by establishing rules, no, in medication administration, establishing rules in catheterization, in operating room, no. Those manuals that are being implemented are or came from, no, the concept of quality assurance, because you try to develop a prescriptive way, no, to activate, no, your processes. Okay, so that's quality assurance. But as time comes, as time moves on, concept of quality assurance becomes inadequate because there are other things, no, that have been discovered na kailangan palang idagdag, no, para ma-achieve yung quality service. So this time, according to Duran, who defined quality improvement, he said that we need to include, no, customer requirements or specifications in assuring quality of products delivered to requirements. Now, quality improvement involves serving the needs of your customers. In the healthcare setting, our customers or primary customers will be your patients, no? So whatever the patient demands, whatever the patient needs, that should be included to the service that we give to them. If the patient would need uh, or would like, no, a certain cuisine for his or her diet, we should provide that for us to deliver quality service. If the patient would require some form of modification, no, in the usual service that we give, we have to include that, no, in our service provision as healthcare providers. So that way, no, we imbibe the concept of quality improvement. And when we implement this quality improvement paradigm in the whole organization, we try to implement, no, a quality management strategy, because institutionalizing quality improvement activities, we try to move the whole organization to pursue quality. Now, TQM or total quality management is not only about patient satisfaction, but rather it is a combination, no, of satisfaction of everyone and more. Now, this figure illustrates the evolution of quality, no, from mere inspection, which is done during quality control. It evolved, no, towards prevention in quality assurance, improvement in quality improvement, and institutionalization in total quality management. Now, total quality management revolves around the framework of PDCA, or the Plan, Do, Check, and Act. The PDCA model is a framework where we try to based on develop our plans and do it consistently. And when we do it consistently, we record it so that in time we check, no, if there are any deviations, check the performance, and act on any deviation. Now, the PDCA cycle should be viewed as a spiral cycle, no? A spiral cycle because one PDCA cycle or a circular cycle should move forward the organization, just like a spring. How the coils of a spring is, no? It moves forward for every round of PDCA cycle, so that improvement, no, will come out. Now, why is quality care important? Now, why do we need to implement quality care? Number one, we all know that hospitals are also businesses. So if we do not have good quality, there will be tougher competition for us and our organization will not survive. Number two, we want to prevent medical errors. Because we want to prevent medical errors, which are deadly errors, we need to improve the quality of our care. We need to we need to uh, internalize, no, the paradigm of quality improvement, quality management, no. Since another reason to implement, no, to achieve, no, good quality of care is the rising cost, no, and the limited health expenditures. Even the rising demand, no, can also have an effect, no, on why we need quality care. Okay. Now, if you're going to implement quality healthcare in the whole healthcare organization, where do you start? Okay. The first step is to assess, no, the healthcare quality using the Donabidian model. The Donabidian model encourages us to examine, no, the structure, the process, and the outcomes of the whole organization. Structure may mean we pertain to the physical structure of the hospital or the organization. But it's not limited there. Kasama rin dito sa structure component yung mga manpower and resources that are needed to implement healthcare. So structure component assesses the resources and the structure that we have in implementing healthcare. So we assess whether if the manpower is good, no, if the manpower is qualified, if we have the enough resources, if we have compliant medications, etc., etc. So those assessing those would mean we assess the structure of the healthcare organization. The second aspect is your process component. When we say process component, this is the assessment of how we do things inside the organization, on how we implement care, no? Our procedures, on how we do our procedure. Most especially tinatanong dito is does our procedure or do our procedures are documented? Naka-document ba yung mga dapat nating gawin so that it will be consistently implemented across healthcare organization? Okay? So the process component assesses that. The third outcome or the third component is your outcomes component o yung product, no, ng iyong ibinibigay ng health or ang product na ibinibigay ng healthcare organization. Dapat i-assess yung outcome. Maganda ang outcome ng isang organization, healthcare organization, no? Satisfied ba ang mga pasyente, no? Mababa ba ang rehospitalization rate? Okay, something like that. And measures of health. Okay? If you have encountered the term door to balloon time, no, that's another measurement of quality healthcare. No, yung door to balloon time means the time that the patient enters the emergency and the time that he or she is given angioplasty remedy for his condition. That takes the quality of healthcare. Kung paano ginagamit yung proseso, paano ginagamit yung resources, and the likes. Okay? Now, here are some quality improvement activities that you may do inside the healthcare organization. No? One of the ways to monitor the quality of healthcare is implementing clinical practice guidelines or clinical pathways. I know we have discussed this in the last few weeks, no? Na ang clinical pathways are those procedures, no, or those templates for your healthcare provision, so that you follow a streamlined procedure in caring for your patient. Okay, that's your clinical pathways. You can also do medical audits, utilization review, complaint analysis, sentinel event monitoring. Now, when we say medical audit, in general term, pag sinabing audit, this is an evaluation of a person, organization, system, process, enterprise, project, or product. Okay, so kung ilalagay mo sa context ng medicine or ng healthcare, this is a medical audit, or your medical audit is a review of the outcomes of your care and the process used to achieve it. Now, medical audits are important because it analyzes the variances in the healthcare process and try to understand if it could be considered as part of the norm. Now, the kinds of audit, it can be medical audit. Under the medical audit, it can be a nursing audit, it can be a clinical audit, a peer review, or risk management. Now, an important audit for our practice is yung tinatawag na nursing audit. Because in nursing audit, this is a patient-focused where you try to do the nursing care that you have given to your patient. So nire-review dito yung mga ginawa mo sa pasyente mo, yung how you execute orders, how you observe symptoms, how you supervise the patient, how you communicate, or relay the information to other healthcare professionals, and even the health promotion that you do to your patient. Okay. Now, the best source of nursing audit, or the primary source for audit, will always be your nursing notes. The chart of the patient na ina-accomplish ng nurse, lahat yon will be the source, will be the source of information for nursing audit. So whatever procedure na kahit ginawa mo pero hindi mo na document, that is considered not done. So whatever so your nursing notes will be the source, will be the reference point for your nursing audit. Okay? Now, another type of review is what you call your utilization review, or the assessment of the resource usage. Nagagamit ba siya ng tama at ng efficient? Now, utilization review can be done retrospectively, ibig sabihin babalikan, yung yung paggamit ng isang healthcare resource. It can be done concurrently. Okay? Pag sinabing concurrently, kasabay or in the present, Or the audit can be done with reference to pathways and guidelines used. Now, when you do utilization review, you should have an established criteria para masabi mong tama o mali yung kanyang ginawang or paggamit ng healthcare resource. Now, we established the institutional or a benchmark criteria. Okay? The next type of quality improvement activity is what you call your complaints analysis, or the analysis of the expression of dissatisfaction by your customers. Okay? Now, in complaints analysis, what you do is you investigate on the complaint, whether it is valid or not. Okay? And then you try to address it to the person's concerned. And do sometimes root cause analysis on why the complaint arise. Bakit siya lumabas? Now, you should remember that addressing the complaint is more important, Kasi sometimes people will feel challenged, when you present some complaints to them, For example, kasi may mga complaints na subjective eh. Like for example, may nagsabi, ang sakit nung tumusok nung isang medtech sa laboratory. Okay? Or ang bigat ng kamay ng nurse sa pag-i-inject. Those complaints, are sometimes subjective. Masakit naman talagang matusok ng karayom. But it may be subjective to other people. So you have to validate it. Now, if it's valid and then the complaint is presented to the people concerned, one of the primary reaction would be, one reaction to that complaint is resistance. So, for us, to be able to improve, for us to improve, no, in our craft, in our work, we need to address these complaints. Okay? Because it has some value, no, for you. It provides you with input towards change. No, change for the better, no? Siyempre, hindi change for the worst. Change for the better. Okay? Another type of quality improvement activity is sentinel event monitoring. When we say sentinel events, these are unexpected variations in health practice, no? Which may result to death or serious psychological injury. Well, pag sinabing sentinel event, it means unexpected, no? Hindi mo inaasahan. Kasi you have established guidelines, no? Pero nagde-deviate pa rin dun sa guideline na 'yon, no? According to WHO, the most common sentinel event is yung pagpapalit ng identity ng baby. That's a sentinel event, no? In management perspective, no? Unexpected siya because we have guidelines in neonatal identification. But then, we still deviate from it. So this unexpected variation needs to be investigated. No? Hindi mo dapat pinagpawalang bahala, no? Hindi mo dapat sinasabing isolated case, no? Kasi there are controls already present to prevent unexpected variation, pero nag-deviate pa rin. So to help us improve, no, our process, we need to investigate it and do root cause analysis. Analyze natin, bakit ba nangyari itong deviation na ito? So that we can direct our corrective action to root causes and prevent yung pag-ulit or recurrence ng problema na yun. Here are some quality. Kung kanina, dinidiscuss natin yung mga quality improvement activities, we now go to an organization-wide approach to improve quality, no? The first one, the most common here in the Philippines is yung ating PhilHealth Benchbook Standards. Okay? So, ang sistema kasi diyan, the PhilHealth, which is instituted by the National Health Insurance Act, the RA 7875, is the national state insurer for Filipinos when they become sick. Now, the PhilHealth will subsidize part of the care for the patient. Para ma-ensure ng PhilHealth, no, na tama yung binabayad niya, na may dekalidad, no, yung healthcare na ibinibigay ng ospital na binabayaran niya, mag-i-institute siya ng standard. Mag-i-institute siya ng accreditation sa mga healthcare facilities na sumusunod sa benchbook standard na ibinibigay nila. Okay? In that way, they ensure that they follow the health standards. No? The client, yung ini-insure ng PhilHealth, the Filipinos, are receiving quality care. Pumapasok yan sa dapat nakaka-comply yung mga ospital with the PhilHealth benchbook standards. Okay? Bilang state insurer, kailangan niyang masiguro na yung dinideliver na healthcare sa kanyang mga miyembro, no, ay tama. Okay? Kaya siya nagpapa-accredit based doon sa standard na ginawa ng PhilHealth. Yung standard na ginawa ng PhilHealth is not gawa, no? It is based, no, in several laws, based on international standards. Okay? So kaya kailangan sundin iyon ng mga ospital na tumatanggap ng bayad mula sa PhilHealth. The PhilHealth benchbook standards have seven main categories, seven main domains pala. Okay? Number one is ensuring patients' rights and organizational ethics. Number two is about patient care. The second set of standard is about leadership and management. No? Fourth is yung human resource management, kung ano ka-competent yung mga tao na nagbibigay ng healthcare. Even the information management system, no? Kung nagamit na technology, no, to ensure that information is handled well and processed well. Okay? And even the safe practice environment, and meron ding provisions, no, for patient or performance improvement. So another type of standard or another type of approach is yung tinatawag na ISO standards, no? Particularly in all organizations na template, no, ng organization sa lahat across mapa healthcare, production, banking, uh, advertising or whatsoever, lahat 'yan pasok 'yan or nasasakupan ng ISO 9001, no? 2015 series of 2015 standards. Now, these are requirements for quality management systems. Dinidikta rito or pine-prescribe dito na dapat ang isang organization to become effective, to have good quality, it must ensure the following standards. Now, these are not prescriptive. Unlike sa PhilHealth, which is prescriptive, sa ISO, this is suggestive. No? The standards here are suggestive, meaning it's up to the healthcare organization to implement, no, the standards in their own context. So kaya nga template, no, template yung ating, because it applies, so or it is suggestive of its standards are suggestive on how to implement in the context of the organization. Okay? So ito po yung diagram ng ISO, no? Ang main it follows the IPO model, no? IPO model, which is the input, the process, and the output. No? The input is the customer requirement, kung ano yung kailangan ng pasyente, no? Pati na rin yung mga input from stakeholders and national government, pinapasok dyan. Tapos i-realize using a process that follows resource management, analysis, and improvement, and management responsibility na nagpa-follow ng PDCA cycle using the continual improvement, no, to achieve the product and the output of customer satisfaction. Now, there are 6 mandatory processes, no, sa ISO 9001-2008. Sabi niya, dapat ang isang organization, there should be a mechanism to handle customer feedback, non-conforming products or service, yung mga hindi tamang serbisyo, paano i-handle yon. Next, there should be a way to handle corrective or preventive action, yung mga corrective action. There should also be a records control, no? Records control. There should be a way, no, to monitor documents and records inside the organization, and even review the process of quality assurance, of quality improvement inside the organization. That should be internal kasi dapat the organization, no, to achieve quality should be moving forward to review its processes. Okay? So to review your process, syempre, you have to monitor your process. So kasama sa mandatory process is to monitor how you do things inside the organization. Another approach is yung tinatawag nating TS, no, or your Toyota Production System, which is predicated from the principle of JIT, no, to aim reduce waste and inconsistency. Sa madaling salita, in TPS, it levels down the decision-making process to the person who is closest to the problem. So in that way, decision-making is quicker, no? So is quicker and easily accessible, no, to those who need the decision. So another concept then in quality improvement or in controlling is yung tinatawag nating employee discipline, or controlling behavior of an erring employee. Now, here are some principles that you need to understand or you need to remember when administering employee discipline. You should do it promptly, privately, and thoroughly. No? When the error has been committed, immediately administer the sanction. Now, number 2, it must be done progressively. Ibig sabihin, you start with a light sanction, And if the offense or if the error is repeatedly committed, nag-i-increase din yung iyong um, sanction. And you must also exercise extreme caution because instituting disciplinary procedures may cause feelings of degradation, no? Sa madaling salita, dapat when you administer disciplinary procedure, you must be sincere, no? And when we say sincere, you do follow up on the effects of your sanction. Okay? That ends my lecture for this week. I hope you learned something from me. If you have any questions, you can always message me through my messenger account. No, if you want to start a discussion, you may start a discussion at our FB page. No, so with that, I end my lecture and have a nice day.